Good afternoon, fellow aquarium scientists. Hope everybody is doing well. Today is a very exciting live stream because for the first time in a while, we have a guest on our live stream today, Ian from Nature Aquariums. Thank you very much for coming by.
What up, Usama? Professor FishTanks. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Appreciate you coming on. So yeah, pretty excited. I've been wanting to have Ian on for a while. He's been pretty active on the live streams. Another fellow saltwater hobbyist. And I just wanted to, we're gonna basically, so this is basically what's gonna happen is this live stream is going to be what I would have done on Sunday, but we wanted to make sure that we did the live stream on a day that we were both available. And so Friday was the day that we decided on. So that means there's not going to be a live stream on Sunday, but that's totally fine. And it's mainly going to be saltwater specific. So we're going to get to take a look at Ian's saltwater setups, get to learn a little bit more about his experience in the hobby. So if any of you guys have any questions regarding saltwater, we'll be more than happy to talk about them, discuss them, answer them based off of our experiences. But that doesn't mean if you guys have any freshwater questions or discussion topics, we'll be happy to address those as well. We're both freshwater people as well. But I wanted to kind of change things a little bit for the past live streams here on Professor FishTanks. We've been doing more freshwater stuff. There have been times where we've discussed saltwater, but I wanted to dedicate a live stream specific to saltwater, get you guys introduced into the world of marine aquaria, because it is pretty cool. So before I give the mic to Ian, just a few announcements. First of all, if you guys aren't aware, Atlantic Aquariums has a new YouTube channel. So feel free to go and check it out. Subscribe if you haven't already. There's one live stream replay on there, which we did a live unboxing on Tropica plants. Which, by the way, the Tropica plants are doing very well and are pretty much ready to be shipped out. So if you guys have placed any back in stock requests, most of those requests are now in, meaning I got them in. So you guys are welcome to go ahead and place the orders if you so wish. If you've already gotten those plants from somewhere else, that's totally fine. But just wanted to give you guys some updates on that. Another update regarding Atlantic Aquariums, and then that'll basically be it. And then we can do some hello highs as well. So let me share my screen real quick. If you guys follow Atlantic Aquariums on Instagram or Facebook or things like that, the announcement has already been made, as well as if you subscribe to the newsletter. So you're a subscriber or a member on the website, you should have also received an email. If you've never opted into the subscriber list or the member list on the website, you won't be getting any emails from Atlantic Aquariums. I don't spam everybody like other companies do. But I'm very active with those emails to kind of keep people up to date. Every month there's a monthly newsletter that goes out. But let me share my screen real quick. Then I'm just going to do a full screen here. So if we go to aquarium equipment and supplies, then we're going to kind of scroll down a little bit to where all the filtration equipment and stuff is. So there are two new products. They've been out for a while. I just didn't realize it until recently, from Aqua Illumination. So the first, and me and Ian were just talking about it behind the scenes, but the first one is the AI Orbit Flow Wave Maker. It's a gyre pump, so it's very different to your traditional wave makers. And one of the key features is it has a very cool circulation flow, as you can see in the diagram there. But it comes in two sizes. I believe it's the Orbit 2 and Orbit 4. For the Orbit 2, which is this one right here, you can actually take one of the fans, I guess you can call them, off and kind of plug it up. And so you only have the one there, and you can install that to a lot of your other nano all-in-one tanks and things like that. But that there is also a larger version as well. It is compatible with the My AI app. One of the interesting things is, if any of you are familiar with Max Spect, this is literally the Max Spect gyre pumps. It is a licensed product, so got a licensing from Mass Spect to basically it. But the difference is it has the AI driver on it, so you can incorporate it into your My AI functionality and get all the what's the word I'm looking for? All the cool little things you can do that's very similar to the Nero pumps. So that's one, and then the other one is the actual like pump for your sumps or filtration. By the way, both products are good for freshwater and saltwater. And then this is the AI Access centrifugal pump. So this is mainly for like more smaller systems. However, the Access 90 is good for I believe up to 100 something gallons, maybe 90 gallons if I remember correctly. But one of the things I wanted to point out about this pump is the water actually gets sucked up from the bottom here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, which means instead of it being on the side, so when the water evaporates or if it goes too shallow, a lot of your sump pumps will actually start sucking in air, and that's bad for the pump. However, in this case, this can run in very shallower water because the water is being sucked up from the bottom and then it goes up from the top, which I thought is really interesting, and you don't see that a lot in terms of a sump pump. And it is a DC pump, so it is flow controlled through the My AI app, and obviously has the not just the My AI app, but also Mobius if you have Aqua Ecotech Marine, as well as the MXM module for the Neptune Apex, so you can control it from the three, because Neptune Systems, Ecotech Marine, and Aqua Illumination are all under one company.
The
But
aperture.
yeah, Aperture. That's correct. And yeah, so those are the two main things I just wanted to point out to you guys. If you guys are interested, it is available on Atlantic Aquariums. Feel free to check it out. But let me swap back. Whoop, hello. There we go. Okay, so that's enough spieling about that. So let's just do some hello highs real quick. So we've got Coro, welcome. We've got Red Laser. Hang on.
What up, Red Laser? Zen. Shady Grady. Jenna P.
Yep, welcome. Jenna. We've got Atkins in as well.
Yup.
Zen Ginger, thank you very much for sharing the link. Appreciate it. We've got Vanovsky, welcome. Sorry, just seeing if there's anybody new that came in. Steven, if I didn't say hello. Hello, Steven. Storm, Legacy, welcome.
What up, Melvin?
Yep. All right. So I do see a question from Coro. So I guess we can start off with that. Why not? So what are some of the differences between quarantining with saltwater and fresh? Pest dip methodology for corals versus plants too. The chemicals are obviously targeted, but what are the whys? I can start with that first, and then Ian, you're more than welcome to pitch in as well and give your viewpoints of it. So basically, I am a huge proponent of quarantining regardless. Freshwater, saltwater, semi-aquatic, what have you. Even businesses, people that you get your livestock from who also have strict quarantining protocols, even they tell you that it doesn't hurt to quarantine. Now, the length of quarantining you want to do varies. A lot of people do it differently. Some do it for a week or 2 weeks, and some people do it for up to a month. I know what's her name, Rachel O'Leary. One time she got in some fish for her large hills her stream aquarium that she had, and she's quarantined those fish for up to a month. And she said the reason is because a lot of the fish she had in them are really rare, and she does not want to risk it at all. So she's like, I am perfectly fine with quarantining them for up to a month to make sure everybody's okay, eating properly, all that stuff, and then she would move them into the main display. And obviously, if you have something, or if you have a system that has fish that are very rare, really hard to find, really expensive, you might want to quarantine for that long. But I'm a huge proponent for quarantining. Set up a quarantine system. You don't even have to get a glass tank. You can use totes. A lot of people do that, of different sizes. You get a box filter. That's what I usually use, an air filter for freshwater particular. That way, if you have to medicate, you can actually add chemical media into the box filter to then take all those medications out along with water changes. Um, but yeah, so I there's really, in terms of a huge difference between quarantining freshwater and saltwater. It depends on different criteria in terms of the medication you might be using. Dips for corals, obviously. Whereas for freshwater, like Cora was mentioning about plants versus corals, um, for plant dipping, there's really no dip for that. Where like you would get for a coral, it's mainly either a hydrogen peroxide solution or a bleach solution, which a lot of people in the earlier times of my hobby, I've heard a lot of people do that, like a really diluted bleach solution. Nowadays, a lot of people are going towards hydrogen peroxide, which is what I actually used for this tank here when I had the algae issue, and it's controlled it very well. I haven't really seen much algae growing on it now. Um, but yeah, so I coral dipping is a big thing that I always recommend doing, because you can get some very nasty things coming on those coral frags. So you want to dip it. One of the big dips out there is Coral RX, which is really popular for fragging. But there are also other dips, like from Brightwell Aquatics, where there's a dip called Coral Recover, which is basically when you do cut a coral, whether it's the mother colony or the frag, you actually put it in there to help it heal up and things like that, so it doesn't get an infection or anything like that. That's something that I've seen people use. That's very popular. And the same thing goes for quarantining fish. Um, what I usually do when I quarantine is I don't medicate or do anything for the first week. And the reason is that I just want to observe the fish, observe its feeding habits, see if it gains any weight from the feeding, things like that. If I notice that the fish is eating a lot but is not gaining any weight, the stomach isn't really, fattening up or anything like that, that kind of gives me an idea that there might be some internal parasites going on over there. And so I would medicate accordingly. Or the same thing goes for if there's any fin damage. I want to keep an eye on that. If it's going to end up being, if it's fin rot, or if it's just an infection due to like rough housing from wherever the fish came from, things like that. Um, uh, but yeah, and in terms of a lot of the medications, things to be used for quarantining, um, they are targeted for specific things. You've got erythromycin, like from Fritz, erythromycin, Maricel. Um, a lot of medication that are coming out are, you have to be a bit careful, because some medications don't have copper, some do have copper. I know for saltwater specific, there's a lot of copper treatments because it's more effective towards saltwater species. But obviously it's not invertebrate friendly, so you don't want to dose your main tank. You want to obviously move them to a separate tank.
Can I
Go ahead.
also make a point with copper? Um, when you're quarantining, you're also going to be using a lot of prime if it's not like an established quarantine tank. And a lot of this copper on the market used with prime makes the copper toxic. So you have to use a specific copper if you're going to be using prime in a quarantine tank. And that copper is copper power. The copper from Chem, it distracts or whatever it does to the element and makes it very toxic to the fish when it hits prime.
That's a good point. And you said what was the? It was copper.
Copper power.
Copper power. Okay, that's actually good to know. Because I didn't know that, to be honest with you. And it's a good point because prime is something that people use a lot, and
Yes.
it's interesting if you know, because it's both Chem products. So you think Chem would be
Exactly.
would be
Exactly
aware of
why it
that.
doesn't make any sense. And this I learned this from Polo Reef. And
Okay.
he keeps a multi-million-dollar tank, and
Yeah.
if he says don't mix these two coppers together, it's gonna kill your fish, I'm not gonna mix those two coppers, it's gonna kill your fish.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody's not familiar with Polar Reef, Dream Aquarium. That's a dream.
Yeah.
He literally has an exhibit in his home. And
Yeah.
it is a large tank, the filtration room, it's separate filtration room, like
Some of the fish he has, no one ever is gonna get those, or
yeah,
very few people have them, so he treats them with the most care and
yeah,
respect so
yeah,
that they live a long time.
yeah. And quarantine, like he quarantines the
He
fish too.
quarantines them for months,
Yeah,
not just a month, but
the fish, the coral, any coral that he plans on putting in, like he has a separate hospital room just for that, quarantine hospital room just for that. And it's like it's like if the big shots are doing it, you know, there's most likely something. It's the same thing with water changes. If like you have these master breeders and people who've been keeping fish for ages are doing water changes,
yep.
there's probably something to that, which is why
Yes.
they're doing it, and they're being they're successful with it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's like at least if you watch their stuff or listen to their lectures or their or yeah, whatever, and they tell you you might want to at least try it out because you might be surprised. Um, but that's a good thing point to point out. I wasn't even aware of that, which is cool. I didn't even know Seachem had copper.
Yeah, copper mean, whatever it is, or
Yeah, but copper max, gotcha.
copper power.
Copper power, gotcha. Um, but yeah, so uh, again, there's a lot of medications out there. Um, a lot of
And
them are go ahead.
some fish you gotta you can't really treat like other fish. A lot of
Yeah.
the smaller scaleless fish, wrasses, dragonets, jawfish. I learned that the hard
Mhm.
way. So
Yeah,
you got to be careful with what chemicals or medications you're using on certain fish.
yeah, yeah. You have to when you're doing your research um to figure out in terms of how to quarantine. Like one thing that I've started doing is being species specific. Is like
Hmm.
okay, I have this fish. What can I treat it for? Or not even that, but when I was at the Jersey Shore Aquarium Society, one of the speaker there, the topic was on fish diseases and things like that. And one thing that he mentioned very interesting was like certain species of fish only get certain types of diseases specific, and there's certain like there's a whole list of diseases that just the cardinal or the neon tetras or the tetras in general get, and that
Yeah.
not other fishes will get. And so it's like you have to figure out, well, what are these diseases? Are they parasitic? Are they infectious? Are they fungal? What are they? And will what we know in general in terms of medicating, will it work for that? Which for a lot of the diseases, because he used the cardinal or the neon tetra as an example, so we were going through a lot of the diseases they get, and he was talking about, he was like, well, for this disease or this disease, you can try whatever you want, it's not going to work. And it's like if you get it,
Yeah.
knock on wood or whatever, and hope for the best, and just just keep it to where to where it's comfortable enough. If it's not doing well, then you got to make the decision of whether or not you want to let it suffer, or you want to you know you know end it there. But yeah, quarantining hospital procedures, they are very tricky, and it's like basically before you get anything, do your research, and also see in terms of like what diseases or are they prone to parasitic. Not only that, but what's interesting is like especially fish, inverts, whatever that you get that are coming from the wild will get a lot of, especially parasites with them. I
Mhm.
know like a lot of your wild caught puffers that come in, they will usually have parasites that basically the one thing like Corey from Aquarium Co-op, whenever he gets certain species of puffers in, he always uses a dewormer to get, because he knows that they're coming from the wild, they're going to have at least some parasites in them. So with the dewormer, we're able to get that in, so that way when we do feed them, they're gonna do very well, which I thought was very interesting, and it kind of makes sense because especially if you're getting stuff from the wild, they have their own set of diseases coming up. But then if you're getting stuff that's aquacultured, bred in human care, things like that, that has its um, own stuff that might be coming with them. So you just got to do your research. At least quarantine whatever you're keeping or bringing in for at least what I always recommend for 2 weeks. Observe them, and then if you do notice something strange, go from there. If you know people in the hobby who are more familiar with it, if you have a veterinarian, because it's rare, but there is actually an organization of aquatic veterinarians, and they actually have a vet finder on the website. I'll try and see if I can look up the website for it. But you basically put in your zip code or whatever the case might be, and it will tell you if there's a veterinarian near you that specializes in either public or private aquaria. And then you can also, and they offer consultation, so you can actually consult. Some will just be okay with you sending them a picture. Others might ask you to bring the fish in, and then they can address it accordingly, which I recently found out, which was really cool. um but yeah, it's again, it comes back to what me and Ian we were talking about, is like, especially like with Polar Reef, like if you're bringing in livestock that's really expensive, and in the saltwater world, a lot of the fish you're bringing in and coral you're bringing in are very expensive. So it does not hurt to just set up a quarantine tank, do it right the first time, so that way that particular livestock is okay. And not only that, you don't infect your main display that you worked so hard on and spent so much money on, you know, building it to what it is. Anything else, Ian, you want to add to that?
I'm bad at quarantine. Look,
Fair
man, I
enough.
do safety stop. I put them through safety stop at least. The whatever that blue one is, and then the formalin bath, and
Hmm.
call it good.
Yeah.
I ain't got time for that quarantine. But also keep in mind, a lot of my fish are captive bred, and a lot of the fish I got are from pre-quarantined stores.
There you go. Yeah. Usually you don't have any issues that way. I'm just very paranoid.
I'm not saying I don't have ick in my tank. Sometimes they pop up with spots, but it
Yeah.
goes away because my fish are healthy. They kind of
Yeah.
have a built up immunity to it. And it's kind of the same way in freshwater as well. Some tanks, some fish get spots and it goes away after a couple days, but I'm not gonna fret and treat the whole tank with methylene blue or whatever.
Yeah.
Ick X.
Yeah. I hope that answered your question, Kuro. Thank you, Zen, for sharing Ian's fish family. Go and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Follow him on Instagram, guys. It's got some really cool stuff. Yeah, Steven, a very fancy pump. Definitely worth taking a look at, in my opinion.
You would like that pump, Steven? They're cool.
Jenna says, Usama, do you happen to know a type of air-powered filter that is popular in Europe?
Hmm.
Is that what Steven's talking about? Pecans? Let me take a look. Hang on. A moment to
I know the
load.
Gemcos are popular in America.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't been on Gemco's website in a while.
Oh man, their website has never changed since I've ever.
No.
It's never changed.
When I was working in the lab at my university, we wanted to get their brine shrimp hatcheries, the smaller one, not the big cone ones, and they never got it in. It was actually back ordered, and because we got in touch with them, and they're like, yeah, we're waiting to get a shipment of them in or whatever. They're pretty back ordered or whatever. And every time I would go on, excuse me, to their website, would never they would never be in. Jenna, do you know the name of the company or the brand? Is that what it is? What Steven says? Because I put that in Google and nothing popped up. But Jenna, if you could be a bit more specific on what particular air-powered filter you are talking about. Sorry, I'm just going through chat for a moment just to see. So Zen here asks, are there any water conditioners like ACCR copper safe, or is that all over? Or is that all over for water treaters?
I don't know.
And is safe just as bad since it's not liquid and doesn't not do the heavy metal stuff, or am I misremembering? And then she says, would it be any better to treat the water and let it rest for 2 days, or will whatever is in the prime still make the copper toxic?
We need to do testing.
Yeah.
Find out.
Yeah. I'm assuming Zen is referring to what you mentioned about if you're using the CChem copper treatment with prime, will it make it toxic? Or if you let it treat for, or let it rest for 2 days.
Yes. Because when you're quarantining with copper, the new water you put in has to be pre-copper treated. So that it's the same level when you're putting it in. Because when you do all the mixing, it just gets more complicated.
Oh, so if you're doing like you mentioned when you're adding new water. So like if you're doing like a water change.
Mm-hmm.
So the new water you're pouring in has to already be treated with the copper.
Yes.
So that interesting. That's annoying.
Mm-hmm. That's why I don't quarantine. I mean that's like Humble Fish. That's like, and if you guys don't know Humble Fish forums, like that's the quarantine guy. He knows how to quarantine.
But is that particularly towards the CChem copper, or just if you're using copper to treat?
I believe in general you're using copper to treat because you don't want the levels to fluctuate.
Right. Gotcha. But there's also like other medications out there that's not just straight up like copper, but it contains copper as well, which I guess would be in like a smaller percentage of the makeup for it. But I guess it would still be the same thing. It's like it's again, it's just you've got to do your research. You've got to understand the medication itself, how to treat with it. And a lot of the times, what I always recommend is follow the manufacturer's instructions, whatever medication you're using. And if you have any questions or to modify it, because I've heard a lot of, was there something in the chat?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, no, you're fine. I'll probably see at some point. Because I remember I was on a forum and somebody was talking about the Coral RX, the dip, and they mentioned about like how many capfuls for the regular Coral RX or how many drops of the Coral RX Pro, which is a concentrate, per gallon you want to use, right?
Yeah.
Straightforward. But somebody was asking, well, what if I use less than a gallon? Can I bring the ratios down and would it still work? Some people were like, no, follow the manufacturer's instructions. Other people were like, I've done it and I've had no issues. Excuse me. And what I can speak on my experience is we've done it in the lab where we've brought the concentration down, ratios down based off of how much water we were using, and we had no issues. So
Yeah.
that's my take with it. But yeah,
I
it's
used
mhm.
iodine dips and what's the other one? Two Little Fishies Revive, but I'm gonna switch to the Reef Primer because it's a potassium chloride salt, and you don't have to pre-rinse the corals. You can just dip, put in the tank, and it doesn't
Oh,
really affect the tank as much.
oh, that's
But
interesting.
that's gonna be some testing I'm gonna do. Don't really follow it, but till I do further stuff.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I'd be interested in hearing results for that. But yeah, because with Coral RX as well, like after you dip, you have to put them in
Rinse.
a rinse, just regular new salt water, and then you plop them in. Which I mean, it's an extra step, but like Coral RX has worked for me fine, and I don't mind doing it. It's just you grab a little small container of just regular water and just plop it in there for a little bit, and you put it in there. But that's cool. Um, Hello there, Fathom Aquatics. Thank you very much for stopping by. Hope all is
What
well.
up, Alex?
And we've got Annette, Mystery Snail Guardians. Welcome.
What up, Annette? She a neighbor.
A matin filter. Okay.
Yeah, those are popular.
So
Not as popular here.
those are very popular, and they're popular in the US too
I mean,
because
yeah, yeah, they are. The Wet Spot and the other store that I worked for, All Things Aquariums, they both use matte filters on
and
everything.
Flip Aquatics.
Yep.
He's used them. I know Corey has used them. They're really cool because it's literally if you guys aren't familiar with what a matin filter is, it's literally a whole like sheet or a block of sponge with a hole in it, and then you make a PVC that's kind of like an L, and you put it into that hole, and you drill a little hole in the PVC pipe that's standing down, and you put an airline in it, and then it uses air to basically it's literally like a larger sponge filter in a way.
Yeah.
But instead of the water flow going up, it's going across. And then that sponge will actually grow a lot of your beneficial bacteria, but it'll also grow like mold and other micro or fauna that a lot of your grazers, like your shrimp and things like that, can literally just graze off of that
Mhm.
for feeding, like biofilm and things like that. And so it's very popular, especially for like if you're growing or breeding shrimp. A lot of people use matin filters. I know Dean, Master Breeder Dean, from Dean's Fish Room. He's used matin filters as well for a lot of his goldfish, not goldfish, his angelfish and ram cichlid fry grow outs. I've seen him used a lot. Um, and it's a really cool filter. I personally think they're really cool. I haven't used them yet. I just haven't had a setup to use them for, but they are pretty popular for sure. Jenna says, but does Ian remember a incident with Kenny E's son in an appliance? If so, was that what was that appliance? What is she talking about?
Look, that's a story for Daniken Aquatics channel, and he really says it best. But nobody does it like Hoover. Those who know will know.
All right, we'll leave it at that then. So Annette has a question for you, Ian. What's the parking like for the wet spots? Street parking, parking lot meters, etc.
There's street parking and parking lots down the street a little bit. Around
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Shady says that's an air pump, professor, not a filter. What's a air pump? The Matin filter?
no, that I don't know. Not sure
That's
what
the,
he's talking about either.
yeah. Maybe we'll find out afterwards. But no, the Matin filter ain't an air pump. It's a pretty cool filter. Ba, 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 ba. Hello there, Barbara. Thank you very much for stopping by.
Hey, Barbara.
And we got the Keystone Clash in the house. Welcome, Clashy. If you guys aren't familiar with the Keystone Clash or have not registered to go to the Clash, please do so. If a moderator can share the link to the Keystone Clash, that would be much appreciated.
Mm.
Shady says no, the Gemco pumps.
Ah.
Okay. They've got some cool. They've got some heavy duty pumps for like fish rooms. That's the thing. Like if you're building a fish room, you go to Gemco's website because
Oh,
they got everything you need.
yep, everything.
Yep. Yeah, I need to go to Gemco's website because I haven't been on there in a while. I need to
But
see what they got going on.
the one thing I don't really like about it, and I don't know if it's just because I'm young and naive, but you have to call in to place an order or email or something.
Yes, that's true. That is true. Um,
You
because
can't
it
just
just
like place it in a cart and click
yeah.
checkout, and you gotta
Yeah,
actually
because it
talk to
gives you it
people.
gives you the product like the number, it gives you
Yeah,
the price, and if it's in stock or not, and then you have to email them or whatever, and then do it that way, which is weird. But then again, it's like what you mentioned. It's like it's an old website too.
it's
They
an
haven't changed
old
it at
website.
all. Yeah,
They've never changed it. Or
yeah,
I don't think.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, feel free to put in your questions and anything, guys, and we'll get to it if possible. I do have to get off soon. Well, not soon, but at some point because I have to take my mom somewhere and then come back in time to break fast. So,
You
like I mentioned, we've got our friend Ian here today. Like I said, our main topic for this live stream is saltwater aquarium, things like that. So, to start off, Ian, could you please give us a brief rundown of your experience in saltwater? When did you start? What got you into the saltwater world? And I know you have some videos and things to share, which we can pull up in a bit as well. But yeah, take it away, Ian.
Yeah, so I've been pretty interested in saltwater pretty much all my freshwater keeping. I've been looking at them like, dang, those are nice. And I just kind of always been watching videos from other saltwater creators and learned as I went. And then I just kind of dove in after watching a video from reef builders and then getting a job at a store that sold saltwater and getting a jump start there, learning hands on.
Yeah. Speaking of reef builders, you want to showcase because you showed it to me, but you want to show the shirt you're wearing right now? Yeah,
Jake Adams T-shirt.
yeah. For
Rest
those of
in
you
peace.
don't know, Jake Adams was basically the guy behind Reef Builders. A great dedication to the hobby, and unfortunately, he passed away. So,
Yeah,
but
he
yeah,
brought a
carry on.
lot. He brought a lot, and just giving a easy way to learn about saltwater. And me, as I take things, I kind of go really quick. Like I've done a lot of in the freshwater kind of world, and so I was just looking for that next thing. In saltwater, there's just so much to do, and started off with a 10-gallon tank, nothing but a hang-on back filter, and just got going. Soft corals and macroalgae, easy fish.
Hmm.
Although I did try some uneasy fish, and I learned that yeah, I needed to wait. And I have some pictures of the first tank as I was setting it up.
Yeah.
If you want to
And
see.
yeah, definitely. If you can share it, that would be great.
Percent. There. I think that should. So this is the 10-gallon reef tank that I started on April 9th, 2021. And I still have this tank running.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just a little 10-gallon hang on back night crew LED light.
Mm-hmm.
Put an Inkbird on it. I eventually got an AI Nero, some live rock from the store. Easy stuff. And this was one of the first fish that I got, and it did not last long,
Uh-uh.
sadly. But
Is
I
that
did.
was that is that that looked like a hawkfish? Is that a hawkfish?
So this was a red scooter blenny,
Okay, gotcha.
the ruby red with the yeah, they're really cool, but they're
Mhm.
like a mandarin, they're pod eaters. And this was just
Uh,
as it grew in, got a
wow.
firefish, a
Mhm.
wrasse. They were cool, but they both like jumped out. Or my goby, I love these guys. This was a cool picture I got of the pistol shrimp and the goby.
Uh-huh. Oh, you had them?
Yeah, man, this
Mm.
is like I've had them for almost 2 years before my goby passed away. I still have my shrimp,
Oh,
gobyless. I need to get him a new friend,
yeah. For those of you who
but
don't
they're
know, they have like a really cool relationship where they'll live together in the same tunnel that I think the goby makes it, right?
hmm
Yeah. And so you'll see
well,
them kind of
the shrimp makes the tunnel, and then the goby protects because the shrimp can't see, and the
yeah,
shrimp will always keep an antenna on his goby. And when the goby gives like a certain twitch of his tail, the shrimp knows to back away of danger. It's a really cool symbiotic relationship.
that's really cool. That's very cool. Yeah, and I've seen people whenever they get them, they'll get them with the shrimp and the goby because it's just
Yep.
really fascinating to see. And if you do plan on, and Ian, you can actually add to this if you like, but if you plan on getting anything that burrows or digs or anything like that, you one need to make sure your substrate is deep enough, and two that your hardscape is not going to topple over. So
Yeah.
you got to be very careful with that.
Yeah. So they would dig out a lot, and there's still tunnels underneath the rock that you can kind of see underneath. But I had a Lubbock's fairy wrasse as well,
Nice.
and Enthelia, green star polyps, a cocoa worm that came with a little like clam you can kind of see on the bottom left.
Okay.
And I still have that clam to this day, but I don't have the cocoa worm.
Okay. Nice. And I love the lighting is not as blue as you would normally see it, and I think it's probably because of the macroalgae too that you
Yeah,
chose
and
spectrum.
there's not a there's not a lot of control on the lighting spectrum, but I do have
And you said
some.
it's the Nicro. Is it the Nicro Marine version?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's a very affordable.
Yeah, definitely. That's a gorgeous tank, and it's still running. You said
Yeah,
nice.
it doesn't look as pretty, but a lot of the corals are bigger. Like this cabbage leather in the center is a lot bigger.
Mhm.
I got rid of this rock on the left, and you'll see later I kind of replaced it. The Synthelia just grew out of control.
Oh my
I,
god,
I built a controller board.
nice.
I got a tail spot blending. I still have this fish. Yep, and there's when I replaced the rock. I was like, no more of this Enthelia, and there's still Enthelia in there.
Yeah, no, because the zinnias and Nathalias, they are like weeds. They will just overtake a tank. Like I've seen people suggest like, hey, if you want this, just make a separate island for it. But like even then, like there's a risk of it getting onto the main scape and all and as well. But it's still a cool coral to have because it's like it's active is what they kind of usually refer to as because it's pulsing or it's wavy and it gives you kind of that flow that you might not get with other corals. But so is this predominantly like softies that
Yeah,
you
so
have?
right now in the video there's some LPS in there, but um, I moved those into the new setup. I kind of passed it, but this is the new tank that I
Nice.
got. A water box 45.2. Whoop
Nice.
whoop.
Water box. You're
Picked
getting
it.
fancy here.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And you see that pump on there? It didn't work when I got it. I picked it up used,
It's
and
Ecotech, right?
that's an MP10. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and it came with the AI Blade 16, not a Blade, the Prime,
Gotcha.
and yeah, it's pretty cool. We'll get into that.
Mhm.
This was the first SPS. It stripped in a week.
So what is it? What's the name?
Uh, Seriatopora bird's
Gotcha.
nest.
Gotcha. Really? The bird's nest didn't do well for you?
No, it stripped on me in a week. So keep in mind, you're gonna probably cringe at this. I was using tap water the whole time,
Hey.
but I have 26 TDS coming out the tap.
But there's still TDS in it.
There's still TDS in there. Now I'm using RODI. I have a 4-stage, 75 gallon per day BRS unit.
Nice. And is that
And
a bubble tip anemone I see over there?
yeah, so this is when I got the water box going.
Gotcha.
It came from a previous owner, and I'm trying to go back to, yeah, water box reef. So this thing has a little sump on it. It's
Mm-hmm.
got 2 drains and a single turn. Pretty
Now
normal.
I thought the drain it came with a gate valve, but that looks like a ball valve.
That's a ball valve. So this is an old tank. This tank they don't make anymore. It's discontinued,
Uh,
and the new ones have the gate valve.
Gotcha. Because with the gate valve, you can really precision control the flow, which comes in handy. Whereas with the ball valve, it's like it's not really that precise. But
Yeah, so I filled it up with salt water, let it run for about a week, put some sand in there, and then instantly transferred from the previous owner all their live rock out of 2 tanks. Their 2 clownfish, the anemone, a sea urchin, and some inverts.
nice.
And all that rock has been established for like 3 years. The
Yeah,
clownfish they had for over 3 years, and I still have them.
nice.
But yeah, it's a really cool anemone.
That's a nice picture of that. That's a nice picture. Now that doesn't look like the rose bubble tip anemone. That looks like that newer color variant. What they call it?
I
Um,
don't know. They said they spent a lot of money on it, and I pretty much gave it away because
Wait, you don't have it anymore?
no, I gave it away. I sold one for $60. I was like, cool, this kind of feels wrong, and then I gave the other one away.
No, man. You're supposed to. That thing. Whoever you gave it to is probably like up and down when they got it. They're like, this thing
Yeah,
is
it's
cut.
split into 2. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be balling, and I just don't like the feeling of making money off other hobbyists as a hobbyist. You know?
Got it. Yeah, fair enough. But then again, it whatever you do make from selling, you put it towards the hobby to continue on.
Yeah. And I also didn't like that it kept walking around and stinging my coral. So I started to move coral from the 10-gallon
Mm-hmm.
into there, which is mostly like zoas and the hammers, and I moved the blenny in there.
Gotcha.
The This was the last hours of Firefish. That really sucked. I didn't know what was happening. He was fine for like a month and then just started doing this.
Hmm.
And
And it
I'm not
wasn't eating either.
wasn't eating, he was hiding,
Hmm.
so I'm not sure. But
But
I haven't
everybody
tried.
else was okay.
Yeah, everybody else is okay. And then this is when I got my first biota order. I got a captive bred Royal Grama and a little Mandarin.
Nice.
They're so little when I got them.
I have a soft spot for mandarins. They're so beautiful, and they just like buzz around on the bottom of the tanks. But they're not necessarily picky eaters, but it's like they're pod eaters. So you need to make sure your system has a good copepod colony where they can then just pluck it, or even like live baby brine shrimp. They sometimes will go for, but
So this is the system now. This is the new tank I set up, a 20 long as a frag tank.
okay. That you
And
hooked
I
up to your main system, right?
yeah, so I'll show here in a little bit. It'll
Oh, those corals are a weakness for me. I love Euphilia or Fembrophilia as
yeah, I
they
had to get him out of my display tank, man. I was just like I was about to give him away too.
no. If you're gonna give them away, just give them to me. I'll take.
But yeah, the return kind of comes up there. I did
Mhm.
a bad job filming that one. I have a better one. Right.
And I like the fact that you hooked it up to your main display because there's a few benefits to that. It's one, you're increasing the water volume, so it
Yep.
helps with water quality maintenance, water chemistry, and then not only that, more surface area for bacteria, beneficial bacteria to grow and to continue on keeping your system healthy, which is really nice.
So this was before I moved all my euphilia from biophilia.
Hmm. That's the water box, right?
Yep, this is the water box.
Gotcha.
This is how it's sitting right now. That's my cherub angel. I love him
Nice.
or her.
Biota has been really doing a lot of angel breeding recently.
Yep. I don't think this one's captive because the price didn't match captive breeding.
Yeah, yeah. Captive bred are usually way more expensive than wild caught.
Oh, he was $50, bro. That little angelfish. I was like, oh, really? For him, and he doesn't get bigger than 2 inches?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
And that's a peppermint shrimp
Cleaner shrimp
cleaner. Okay.
or skunk cleaner shrimp.
Yeah.
That's a possum wrasse, a wet morella genus. They're
Nice.
really cool pest control.
Hmm. And it's the same thing with the skunk cleaner. So when I first was new to the saltwater world, I assumed that the skunk cleaner was great for algae control. That is not the case. They are more cleaners to clean like parasites and things like that off of fish and like eat like uneaten food, things like that. They don't go after algae. It's the other shrimp, the what is it called? I think the peppermint or one of the other like shrimps that are also kept in the hobby. Those go after more of your algae and things like that. But yeah, because I got one of those for our frag tank once and would not touch the algae that would like sometimes grow on the frags or whatnot, but would eat like the foods we would be giving to the fish and things like that. And I'm like, you are not doing your job. And then later on, realizing that, of course, it's not doing the job. It's not supposed to be eating the algae. So we were like, well, we ended up getting like urchins and things like that. So that kind of helped. But yeah.
Yeah, urchins. I have a tuxedo urchin in here.
And
That
I'm
one's
assuming
fine.
it loves decorating itself.
Oh yeah. Not that one. I wanted to do. So I've got a big Milka Stylo in there that I've just
That's
been growing.
a gorgeous LPS or SPS, excuse me. You got a
And I have,
toxic green acropora.
yeah, the Bali Green Slimer.
Yeah,
I don't know what that purple one is. That green one was labeled as a cactus, and the other pink one is some tenuous, I believe.
nice.
That candy cane. So you remember that little candy cane that was in the 10-gallon?
Mm-hmm.
That's the candy cane today.
Wow.
Below.
I
Of
got a frag of that at the USA Reefers event that was going on here in North Jersey. They do it all over the country, but they were here in North Jersey in Secaucus, and I went there. And the first like 100 people that go will get like a free frag at the door. And I got the first frag I got was a Montipora, and I don't like it was an encrusting coral. I don't like encrusting corals, so I was like, and the person who was at the doorway, she's a good friend. She actually works for Brightwell, um, Metro Cat, in case anybody doesn't know. But I went to her and I was like, "Do you have something that's not encrusting?" And so she looks through and she found like the toxic green candy cane, and she's like, "Is this okay?" Basically the same thing you have. And she's like, "Is this all right?" I was like, "Yep, I'll take that." And so I got that and I brought it to our lab, and it's been doing well. I'm assuming it's been doing very well since then.
So this is a sponge that's growing in my sump. I think it's cool.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
white.
Yeah. It's because I have no light in here. I keep it dark.
Yeah,
I only have the light when I'm doing work in there.
right.
And so I'm also dosing Kalkwasser.
Mm-hmm.
Don't knock it over. Don't touch it. But I'm going to touch it and show you guys in my bare hands. Don't do this. All right. But this is how I keep it from not sucking all the bottom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just hooked up to a little doser.
And
And
what's
I keep,
the dosing schedule?
it runs at nighttime based off pH.
Okay.
So when the pH rises because of photosynthesis, and then when the lights start to come down, the pH drops.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, say 8.2, it'll turn it on, and if it gets above 8.25, it turns off.
Interesting. And I remember you were when I was showcasing on the website the what was that thing called?
The
The cent
CChem Centro or whatever
the
they're called.
Centra dosers. You were asking if it can run constantly. I think you were mentioning it for that, right?
Yes. So this
Gotcha.
pump just is continuously on for 2.5 milliliters a minute,
Mm-hmm.
and it is controlled by the Hydros controller.
Gotcha.
This is where my tail spot blending loves to sleep, but also gets bullied by the Tamini tang. I have a video of that. Look, see the Tamini tang's just like, what?
Oh my god.
Yeah, so he's get the either the tail spot blending or the Tamini tank's got to go. I think the
Yeah,
Tamini.
because that type of bullying and the stress is one of the key things that just makes a fish go,
Yep.
I'm gonna not feel well after this. So yeah, definitely one of those are probably gonna have to be taken out.
There's quite a few fish in here, but also my nutrients are really really low. I can't keep them high, so I just kind of tend to overfeed.
Yeah. Other than the Kalkwaster, do you dose anything?
I was dosing Alpha Reef, but I stopped doing Alpha Reef because I'm doing the water changes.
Gotcha. Because even with the water changes, it'll replenish a lot of those macronutrients for the corals. But
Yeah.
looking at how healthy your corals are, I could definitely tell that nutrients will probably go low because they're sucking them all up.
Yeah. Some of them are getting pretty large.
Mhm.
But really, it's kind of just a simple system. Like, here's the sump. It's just got a
And
protein skimmer.
is that a simplicity scanner?
Yep, that's the Simplicity 120. I got that for free.
Yeah, because I have
Because my buddy
simplicity.
gave it to me. He's like, "Hey, you don't have a skimmer in your sump, bro? What are you doing? Here's a skimmer. Just put it in your sump and plug it in, bro." And I'm just like, "Thanks, bro."
Yeah, because Matt was looking at the simplicity skimmers on the website, so I was like, yeah, they're a great skimmer, more
They are
affordable
great.
than the other ones.
Yeah. It just didn't come with a silencer, so I put a ball
Okay,
valve at the end.
gotcha.
But
Now,
yeah,
if what if you? I had a thought. Why don't you, instead of removing the tang, remove the blenny and put them into the frag tank you just set up?
that's what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
I just got to get a trap because there's no
Then
way I'm
so
catching it.
that's that the what you call it, the sponges up, and then Zen made a comment if I can find it, but she basically said that cool's one thing, creepy is is another. Yeah, right here. Cool is one way to put it. Kind of creepy is another.
Kind of creepy. Oh, for
The
the
sponge,
sponges.
I think. Yeah, because it's like all white and
Yeah, it
ghostly.
kind of looks like some creepy. Yeah, that's the
Mutant.
stuff I like. I've got pineapple sponges growing in the display,
Nice.
and then these ones, there's like all sorts of worms and copepods and stuff living in there.
Yeah. And I mean,
Little
the
starfish.
sponges are also like, if you can take care of them well, they're filter feeders. So they like to really keep your sponges, your clams, things like that. They're all filter feeders. Since you fixed the Neuro, is it working okay now?
No, it broke again.
Uh,
It broke again, so I'm just like, whatever. I'm getting a Jabo.
Fair enough.
But luckily, I have two Neros. One was running on my freshwater tank,
Gotcha.
and I just gave it a good clean because it was pretty brown and mucky from freshwater stuff,
Yeah.
and then slapped it on one of my pre-saved schedules and called it good. Easy to program those Nero pumps.
Oh yeah. That's one of the things I like about AI and their app, especially, is like it's pretty straightforward. Not too much, and like I usually use uh, settings that people will share because you can share your settings and things like that. And
Yeah,
so that's what we did with the for our coral system. We used one of the schedules that that Bulk Reef Supply. No, not Bulk Reef Supply. Waterbox. They used to have like their own schedules available to download on their website. Now they share schedules and things like that from other keepers. So it depends on what you're looking for, the size of your system, things like that. And so we actually downloaded one that was for both LPS and softies, and it's been working very well since then.
good.
We just had to adjust the time a little bit so that way it didn't stay on for as long as it was preset for. Coro says I'm going to be doing Jabeo for everything, I think. Though I'm not sure about their lights. Reef lights are so expensive. Yeah, but then again, it's like it's the spectrums, the high intensity that you get, as well as depending on if it is controllable. But if you're not keeping that many hard to keep corals, you don't really have to go all out for lighting, really. Um, but obviously, the more difficult corals to keep, the higher the better the higher the lighting and controllability, the better you'll get out of it. But it's like what bulk resupply for one of their videos they were talking about with lighting is like um somebody mentioned that they're like corals are very adaptable creatures. It's like you set it to whatever will work best for them and then you just observe them. If they're doing very well, you don't have to do anything. If they start to not do very well, then you can kind of figure out what's going on and adjust a little bit, but not to chase numbers and then leave the experimentation for the next tank you set up or the more high end tank you set up, which I thought was a really cool thing because a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it. I tend to number chase a lot, but it's like I'm trying to train myself to not to
So
observe, and if things work well, to just keep it as is and not touch it as mother play with it as much.
yeah, I was thinking about doing a test so I could give you guys some fresh numbers on the
Nice.
tank, but I didn't do it. So I know salinity is good, and the
Mhm.
pH is 8.09.
Nice.
So
That kind of explains why your corals are doing very well. pH is pretty high, and then I'm assuming your alkalinity is probably good as well.
it's clear around 8 to 9. Sometimes it
Mm,
dips to 7, sometimes
gotcha.
6, but I don't chase and just dump a load of more alkalinity in there. I just kind of roll with it. Maybe I'll bump
Right.
up a couple mils per minute or
Hmm.
point, not like, yeah, so you can do 0 point control. So I'll bump it up by like 0 to,
It's like in increments. You're bringing it up in
yeah.
increments. Yeah.
You just don't want them to bottom out. And nitrate and phosphate are what I struggle with the most. But if honestly, if you're feeding and putting food in there and your nitrates and phosphates are still 0, you're still putting nitrates and phosphates in there.
It's
It's
just
just
not
your
that detectable.
corals and everything is consuming it so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That by the time you test for it, it's already gone anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And there's the skimmer. I mean, this is only a 45-gallon tank with a 20-gallon. Now it's a 60 with a Simplicity 120. That's a
Nice.
pretty big skimmer.
Oh yeah.
So it's doing its job and taking care of the nutrients.
What return pump are you using?
I'm using a Hydor 900.
Okay. So that's a DC pump too, right?
Yep, DC power. I can show
Beautiful.
you my Hydros layout if you
Ooh,
want.
yes, because we've been talking about the Hydros controllers before, so it'd be nice to take a look at them.
I should have it shared.
Caro says Hydros Kraken question mark.
The Kraken is cool, but a lot of it's expensive. And they came out with a new product this week, or released a new product.
I saw that.
The
Um,
uh, the launch they're calling it.
yes, which Telegram on Instagram, he was one of the people I was talking about when I was talking about the biodigest beneficial bacteria. He uses it,
Yep.
and uh he's been talking about hydros a lot, and he's like the the new product, the new module that they came out with. He's like, this is what they should have came out with from the beginning.
That's what I said. I'm like, this is why did I spend my money on this? Now I want to get this. 2
Yeah.
pH probes. Ooh.
Yeah, it made me crack up. He was like, this is what they should have came out with from the beginning.
And it's less than 600, which still is a good deal, but I feel like the XP8 is going to be my next, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
But this one's pretty simple. It's just running off of a X3 and a Wave Engine LE,
Okay.
and they're running off of a collective. The Wave Engine LE has like a Meanwell power supply, so it can power a lot of stuff off of the collective, and that's the one thing I like about hydros. So my X3 and my Wave Engine are both kind of like brains. So if
Mm-hmm.
one of them loses connection, the other one still controls.
Okay.
Neptune, they have the singular brain that has the modules connecting off of that brain. And if that
Right.
brain's done, you can't do anything.
Right.
That's what I like about hydros. You can have the X3, you can have the launch or an XP8, and those are all different controllers in your
Mm-hmm.
collective. So if one loses connection somehow, you can still control it.
It's like the actual product or the actual piece of equipment is the controller itself.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And it can do a lot. Like these are just my inputs. A lot of these are static inputs and they're empty because we had to reset it with the Wi-Fi. We reset our Wi-Fi for some reason, and that took
Mm-hmm.
away all my previous numbers. I'm pretty pissed about that because I had graphs that were pretty nice.
Does it not? Because I know you can do it with Apex, but does it not archive?
Not really. So
Uh,
like the pH it does. Yeah, the pH I can, but not
okay.
what I do now.
And I love when you can, with things like that for like water chemistry, you can overlap the graphs. So you can see pH in relation to salinity or ORP or salinity in relationship to temperature, which I find very interesting because they do relate to each other. You know, depending on what the temperature is, the salinity can actually vary.
Yeah, there's a way you can overlap them, but I'm not sure how to do it. This is also pretty new, so not a lot of it is like. I mean, this is good, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But it's pretty simple. Let me get out of this graph view.
And this is on desktop. You can also access it like on
The,
mobile as well.
the mobile's a lot more user friendly. The
Oh,
PC, yeah, it's a lot easier to slide around. But yeah, I've got the Wi-Fi power strip. So the Wi-Fi power strip is controlling the heater, the skimmer, and return pump, and also the calcwasser.
nice.
I don't have it controlling the auto top off because I feel like that might be a recipe for disaster. But the
Yeah.
calcwasser is kind of like a top off, but it's only running at 2.5 mils per minute. So if it does get stuck on because of the Wi-Fi, I'm not really uh, that much worried. But say if my auto top off gets stuck on because of some Wi-Fi reason, then yeah. That's why I want the XP8 because the XP8 doesn't have Wi-Fi problems. Sometimes the Wi-Fi strip loses connection, and whatever it's doing, it's on.
Right.
So, like, say if a pump is on, it's on until it has Wi-Fi to turn off.
Okay.
If it loses connection in the middle of it, that cycle, which I kind of don't like, but
Yeah, because that can have a risk in itself.
mm-hmm.
So let's say you have a doser that turns on or whatever the case might be, and then it loses connection. Obviously, it's not connected to its schedule or whatever you have it set to as, and so it's just running until it reconnects, and you shut it off that way, unless you, I guess, unplug it,
Yeah.
um, which can screw up the parameters depending on what you're dosing.
So for me, it happens about once a month in the middle of the night when it's already on. So
Oh,
like
that
my calc
sucks.
test, you can see it's off because it's the
Right.
daytime. So when say it does do that, I'm not really worried, but um, everybody has different Wi-Fi, and
Yeah.
that's why I really want the XP8 because it's just hardwired in. And you don't
And
have that.
that's what I was gonna ask as well. Like this module you have, excuse me, right now, can you not connect an Ethernet cable to it so you
So
can connect it directly to the internet?
no, Hydros does not offer Ethernet because it's working off of CAN bus.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you know what CAN bus is, but it's like technology used for cars and airplanes to send a signal. So like say if you hit an impact and the airbag deploys,
Hmm.
that's most I think are using CAN bus technology to get that instant like um, connection
Okay.
control. So this thing's really controllable. So like I can just hit feed mode and everything's off now
Hmm.
and turn it back on and now everything's back on. And the skimmer I have on a timer where it turns back on after 5 minutes of running.
Right.
And so you can do all that different timeout. And it's
So
really easy.
basically, you can program it, command it, similar to like what you can with Apex, where it's like, um, if core, excuse me, if core off, then skimmer off, and then when core on, skimmer on after like 5 minutes or whatever. Like you can put input commands, so that way they all communicate with each other. Is that something that's also similar in the Hydros?
So Hydros has zero coding. It's all just a drop down menu, and you should
Gotcha.
be able to find it in the drop down menu. So like you would open up advanced settings and say your minimum off time. Say like if it's been turned off, the
Hmm.
return pump like turns off for some reason, and you want it to turn back on after a certain time, you would say minimum off time 30 seconds. But I don't
Oh,
use
okay. Gotcha.
or minimum on time or maximum on time, and there's also maximum off time. And so that's kind of like the advanced control. But
Gotcha.
really, the fun parts are when you get into like generic outputs, which
Hmm.
uses inputs to control an output. So here with the Calcwasser, I'm using input one, which is my pH probe,
Hmm.
at a certain level, 8.04 to 8.09, is when it's controlling pH. And it's active when input is pH low. Does not have a schedule. Output device Wi-Fi strip 3. And that's just it. That's all the programming. And it only runs when the pH drops a certain level and turns
Nice.
back on it or turns off at 8.09.
So you have like a minimum maximum setting as well to it.
Yeah.
Cool. Now I know who to go to if I do end up getting a Hydros and I need I need some pointers. Because I'm familiar with Apex because I've been using it, but like I've been looking into Hydros a lot. But there are a little bit of differences within it. So I was like, we'll see if I want to, because I used to be very, very into Apex, but lately they just been slacking. So
They don't. What's the last thing they put out? The A3? Okay.
yeah,
Oh no, that MXM module. Oh, okay.
yeah. And
Um,
like, and it's also a sense of reliability. Like, in my opinion, it's no longer as reliable as it used to be when it first came out, or what it was promised to be. Because back
right.
then, when Apex came out, there weren't really that many like Hydras came after Apex, but
Yeah.
so at the time, it was mainly Apex, and like the concept of complete controllability of your system and monitoring, where you can monitor it from anywhere in the world, really, as long as your Apex is controlled, was very pleasing. And for my purposes in the laboratory, that was very something that was definitely beneficial. So we ended up getting with that. But like after that, just there were times where things would just disconnect, or we would have issues with controlling, or like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the probes wouldn't be as accurate as we wanted them to be, and it was just a headache at some point, and then people were starting to like tell me, they were like, we wasted a lot of money on this, and I was like, well, true, but at the time it was more reliable than than unfortunately it is now. So it's just really weird, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. It can be weird sometimes. With this, to calibrate pH, it's really easy. You just, after getting the little sachets to
Yeah.
temperature, you open it up, put the probe in there, then you hit calibrate.
Hmm.
It'll it doesn't do a timer or anything, but you can watch the voltage and try to get it green.
Okay.
Yeah. But also you can just look at the pH, and if the pH reads 7.0 in the calibration, then you know
Yeah.
the calibration was good. So I recalibrated it last night just to do that because it was 100 days since I did it. It keeps track. So that's the one thing I like.
Yeah.
It keeps track of how many
Of
days.
equipment maintenance and things like that.
Hmm. And I've
Nice.
never calibrated 4.0 because I don't know why. I don't have it.
How often does Hydros Coral View recommend to calibrate the probes?
So it's basically, it depends. Like you watch this and say this isn't like as close to 100% and it gets pretty low and it's
Hmm.
like red, you might want to recalibrate it.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
it when I recalibrated it, my pH was only 0.02 off. So it wasn't like much.
That bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank
So
you for sharing that. That's definitely something that I was interested in seeing, is how your Hydros is set up, and like, because I haven't really seen what the dashboard looks like. I know what the Apex looks like,
yeah.
the Apex Fusion, but I've never really seen the Hydros control dashboard. But yeah, so thank you, Ian, for sharing with us your setups. I think it's really cool. You got some really cool coral. If anybody else has any last minute questions for Ian or me or anybody, or anything in particular, um, I think I'm just going through the chats to see if anybody has mentioned anything, because I wasn't really keeping track of that. But so Homer says special captive bred mandarins are cool. They eat flakes and pellets like a champ. Yeah, that is true.
Mine does. Mine
Yes.
instantly, like it just goes after them. I use the sinking basiliers,
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah,
small,
that's one of the
something smaller.
benefits of getting of aquaculture, and especially in the saltwater world, is they're already accustomed to prepared foods. So you have a better chance of them eating than if it was them being wild caught. Um, Another thing is like to make sure that they'll eat the food that you feed, because whatever they were being fed before they came to you might be different than what you feed. And that's another reason why I like to quarantine as well, is to make sure that whatever fish I'm going to be putting in my main systems will be able to feed on the food that I give. and usually it doesn't take long. They're usually very susceptible to it, which is cool.
So I don't know about you, but I exclusively feed flake and pellet food and
Mhm.
frozen food only when I'm introducing new fish to get them onto flake and frozen or flake and pellet
Nice.
because it's just easier for me to feed that way. But I've got the mandarin, the wrasses, the angelfish is on flake and pellet, so that's like a weight off my shoulders to know that they could live off that.
Yeah,
And the flakes and pellets these days are really high quality and
yeah.
different stuff that they need.
No, that's definitely true. Compared to like you look at even like 15, 20 years before, like there's a huge difference in quality of a lot of the prepared foods, the dry foods coming out now. Yeah,
Freeze dried food.
yeah, I predominantly feed all my tanks dry prepared foods, but from time to time I will feed frozen just to, like I said, I love doing a lot of varied foods. And especially if I have fry, I tend to feed frozen baby brine shrimp or things like that because I can't grow brine shrimp yet, live baby brine, but they love it. They go for it. Um, but I don't. That's the only real frozen food that I use. All the other foods I really use are just dried flake food or pelleted food. Um, Even the smaller pellets are still a bit too big for some of the fish I have, so I basically just grind it down a little bit, and they go at it like crazy, which is great. As long as they feed well and they're happy, I'm happy. That's that's all I go for. Caro
Yep.
says class dismissed. If anybody else has any other questions, which I think Homer does, next plans, next plans with the tanks. So any plans coming up with your systems, Ian?
Not really. I'm not really trying to upgrade right now because a bigger system would just cost more money.
Yeah.
I think if you want to do saltwater and you want to have fun with it, just keep it nano under 50, 60 gallons and grow as you can. Maybe you find someone passing down a system that they upgraded, but it's bigger for you. That's
Yeah.
kind of like how I started, and it's easier because man, this hobby, saltwater, it can get expensive, and it's yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like because like I always recommend with saltwater is, don't go big, but like what you mentioned, like in the saltwater world, a nano tank, something that's even like 40 gallons or like around that is considered a nano tank in the saltwater world. Because the smaller you go, like a 10-gallon would be considered a pico tank in the saltwater world. Really, let's be honest here. But it's basically like because you don't want to go if you're a newbie in the saltwater world, you don't want to go too small because like and I kind of talked about it in a different live stream is like this much water evaporation in a small tank compared to a large saltwater system, the fluctuations in salt salinity can be very drastic. And to kind
yeah.
of avoid those big fluctuations, the larger tank you have, the more forgiveness it will give you in terms of that. So like I think a 50-gallon or something along the lines of that is a perfect beginner tank for the saltwater. And you can easily add a sump to it if you want. Like they make small
Yep.
sumps now for sizes like that. Or use like a canister filter. I've seen saltwater systems with canister filters, and like you can, if you want to add a protein skimmer, you can get a hang on bag protein skimmer. Like there's a lot of modifications and that you can do, and selections you can do for your filtration and equipment depending on what you're keeping. So
And this
def-
bad boy,
yeah.
this is coming up, so this is empty, and it's getting replaced. The frames are cracked, and I don't like
Okay.
it. So I got a new 55 that I found on the side of the road. Frame is good, silicone's good. Looks like it's
Saltwater or
brand
fresh
new. It's gonna be freshwater, and I'm
water?
gonna go high tech planted with my rainbow fish and my cories, and just kind of do all my plants. I'm gonna need some new plants. Yeah, that
Right
way,
here.
right there.
Right there. before I forget, because I was looking up on the list of people who won that like discount code. Coro, I think you won a discount code from me, but I never heard from you. You never sent me an email, so I can send you it. Um, if that is true, because I think it is true, just shoot me an email, professor.prof.fishtanks@gmail.com, and I'll get you that discount code for you. Real quick, one last question, and then we'll call class dismissed. Um, because my mother is getting antsy, I have to take her to a store, and then we have to come back to
Yep.
break fast. So Cora says, Usama, will you import the MAME glass nano skimmer? Ian, are you familiar with that?
I'm not sure about the name of them, but I know that there's a nano glass skimmer that looks kind of slick, and it just runs off limewood airstone.
There's one. What is it? eShops, I think.
I know eShops makes one, but it's overpriced.
Yeah,
But there's another one that's very simple, and I think it's not too overpriced. It's under $100.
I see. I think I see it. It's MAME Protein Skimmer 3. Hold on.
Japanese.
It's Japanese. Oh. There it is. It looks weird. Hang on, let me share my screen real quick. Cora says
Man,
it's pretty much a glass tube. Yeah, it looks like a glass tube. There it
protein
is.
skimmers are so easy to DIY.
That is
Like,
true.
seriously, we could do it. This is what they did in the early 90s, guys. That they were making protein skimmers like this. Like yeah, just like that.
Yeah. It's literally like almost like a bottle type. Like this is more DIY, I think. That's like a water bottle with
Mhm.
a cap, and then I guess the air is going up through there, I'm assuming, and then it just bubbles up. Like the air still might be down there somewhere probably.
Yep.
Yeah, like this is MAME Skimmer 3. Interesting. I'll look into it. Cora, if you're looking into it, but again, it depends because if this is something that I have to like buy in bulk and import from Japan, it's going to cost a lot of money, and if there's no demand for it, I'm not really going to get it in. But it's definitely a cool little gadget, that's for sure. Yeah, there's a bunch of like glass, like nano protein
Yeah,
skimmers.
that's the one I'm kind of used to, the reef
Yeah,
class.
yeah. There's also something really cool. There's a company that makes jellyfish tanks. They were the last time I saw them was at the last aquatic experience here in New Jersey. But it's your traditional Kressel system, and it's all air driven. So it's literally you get like a nice sized uh air pump, and the filter all runs through air. So the protein skimmer runs through air, and it uses air to create flow, so that the jellies are floating in that traditional Kressel tank. It's all, I believe it's either glass or all acrylic. I think it's acrylic. Um, but it's a really cool tank. It's a tank I actually want to get at some point, but they haven't been in stock in a while. So I'm actually going to reach out to them at some point and be like, "Are you guys still making these tanks, or what's the deal here?" Homer says, "When you got a 3D printer and need a mini skimmer, print one." Yeah, 3D printing has also allowed a lot of people to make cool little, not only gadgets but like accessories to already existing equipment.
Yeah, there's somebody made little 3D printed clips for the ends of the hydros cable so that they kind of
Yeah,
bend over easy and they're not like some big loop.
yeah,
Because that's the one thing don't like the look of the hydros is just the big loops of wires, because it all comes off the front with these like BNC. The whole thing's IP65 rated, by the way.
Yeah. That's one thing I also love, like especially with the probes, their cords, there's no electrical interference compared to the Apex, where they themselves have said there is electrical interference,
Mm-hmm.
which will affect your the conductivity of the probe. So they're not going to
Yep.
give you accurate readings. But with the hydros, like you can even tell by the cords on their probes, it's like insulated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no that's one thing that really turned me on to hydros, is the fact that with the probes I won't have the issues I had with Apex, where there's that electrical interference. So there's a better chance of me getting a better reading with the probes. Which I was like, if Apex did that, then half of my issues with the system would have been gone right there and then, if they changed their cording for the probes. But for whatever reason, they don't do it. I don't know what it is
So
about.
it's also the controller itself. The probes are completely separate from everything else on the controller board. So, but with the insulation on the cables, they've made it to where it doesn't have that interference anymore with
Yeah,
hydro. And it's really cool.
yeah. All right, so I think we should. I think that's good for
I think
today.
that, yeah, I like that.
Yep. So thank you, Ian, again for stopping by. Hopefully, at some point in the future, we can meet up again, talk more saltwater. I think I enjoyed our discussions because it's like it's a good refresh from like talking about freshwater all the time and not being able to talk saltwater that much. Because I love saltwater. I'm a marine biologist by profession anyway, so I prefer salt over fresh anyway. But I like both. I love both. But
I'm just a
I do
hobbyist, man. I
there
don't
exactly, exactly.
like.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're saltwater or freshwater. We all love fish. We all keep
Yep,
fish tanks. That's
yep.
the
We love
yeah,
the hobby and bringing people together.
exactly. I couldn't agree more. But yeah, thank you, Ian, very much for stopping by. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I know usually this live stream's on a Sunday, but we decided to do it on a Friday, which is totally fine. Which means that this coming Sunday there won't be a live stream, but that works for me anyway because I'm probably going to be busy that day anyway. If you've missed the live stream, I apologize, but thank you for watching the replay. If you haven't liked the video or the live stream, please do so. It definitely helps. Um, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another live stream or video. And with that being said, guys, take care of yourselves. Keep maintaining those aquariums properly, and we'll see you next time. Take care.